source for college savings. Information at collegeadvantage.com.
Tonight on Gridiron Glory. After 2 dominant wins, Ironton and Jackson reignite their yearly rivalry, while Warren looks to take their first win against Morgan in 3 years. And Athens and Gallia Academy look to prove themselves after a surprising Week 1.
Gridiron Glory starts right now!
It's only week 2, but there's already a lot on the line. We saw quite a few shakeups last Friday, so this is a prove yourself week. I'm your host, Haley Hollinger, and I don't want to keep you all waiting, but let's take a look at this evening's games before we dive in. Week 1 allows teams to come in with months of preparation and anticipation, but week 2 is when the season becomes a reality. It's an unmasking of sorts to find out who means business. Every team has something to prove, but these are the few we'll be talking about tonight. Last Friday, the Ironton Fighting Tigers put on a show in Wheelersburg, so we had to see them again against the Jackson Ironmen. Ironton and the Ironmen are carrying in some momentum from their previous matchups, so you know the stadium pulse was high. And joining me now is reporter Noah Cavan. And Noah, you seem pretty disappointed to have to wait another hour for this game.
Haley, I think we all were. It isn't every day we get a matchup of stars quite like this. Now, I know it's only week 2, but you might want to pay close attention to these guys as the year goes on. First up, Sean Terry. Terry is coming off of an insane performance in which he recorded 168 total yards and 3 total touchdowns in Ironton's 37-7 rout of Wheelersburg. A guy that fast and that elusive is no easy task to defend. And you can't forget about Nolan Johnson. He ran the ball right through the heart of the Logan defense in their 42-7 victory over the Chieftains, rushing for 125 yards and reaching the end zone twice. After splitting carries with Player of the Year Cade Wolford last season, it's safe to say Coach Andy Hall trusts Johnson to shoulder the load. Now, it was senior night tonight in Alumni Stadium, and the Ironmen were ready to take on the Fighting Tigers as soon as they ran out onto the field. Literally. On the first play from scrimmage, Nolan Johnson takes a screen pass, hits the sideline, and sprints 73 yards to the house. Let's speed that one up. The two teams traded punches for the rest of the first quarter, but after a good drive, Zane Williams punched one in for Ironton from 10 yards out. Ironman still leads 7-6. After recovering a fumble, the Fighting Tigers punched in another close run, this time from Deedrick Graves as he slides across the goal line. 12-7 Ironton. Jackson responded with a long drive, with Bodie Wolford capping it off with the good old tush push, taking the lead back. 14-12 Jackson. Next drive, Braden Schreck found himself scrambling for his life on third down. Rolling to the right, he finds a leaping Sean Terry to pick up the first. Later on in that drive, Sean Terry worked his magic, shaking anyone who stepped in his way. Ironton continued to pile it on and won 51-14.
So it sounds like Ironton started out a little bit slow, but then they took care of business. How'd they do it?
Well, the Fighting Tigers started out slow, but bounced back in a big way.
And you mentioned just then that they started out slow. Can you tell me why that is?
Well, Jackson's defense absolutely stifled Ironton early in the ballgame. The Fighting Tigers' passing game was halted by a lethal combination of good secondary play and a suffocating pass rush. It seemed like Braden Schreck had to either take a sack or throw it too early on almost every play.
Oh man, so how'd they turn it around?
Well, the Fighting Tigers mixed it up offensively. A strong inside run game put them in the end zone 2 times early in the second and forced the Ironmen to stack the box. Once Jackson did that, Ironton was able to let the ball fly and bounce it outside. Like you saw earlier, even Sean Terry lined up behind the center at some point. This allowed the Fighting Tigers to put up 24 points in the second quarter.
So you're telling me Jackson scored on their first play from scrimmage. Why'd they only score 7 more points for the rest of the half?
Well, Ironton played defense the only way they know how to. Physical. They forced and recovered a fumble in Jackson's territory and made the Ironmen punt way more than they wanted to. This intensity carried on for the rest of the game. Ironton proved yet again why they are one of the premier programs in Southeast Ohio, and they'll look to keep it rolling next week against Cabell Midland.
Thanks, Noah. We'll keep an eye on these two teams, but we're not the only ones tuned in. You all at home must be as well, because you predicted a Fighting Tigers win. If you didn't get to vote tonight, it's okay. Fan vote comes out every Thursday evening on our Instagram story. Those who did vote this week didn't seem too sure which Portsmouth would bring home the win tonight, so let's go ahead and answer the unknown. Luckily, these two didn't have to brave a hot bus ride for very long, with them only being 10 minutes away from each other and all. But seriously, no matter the weather, this game is always fun. And reporter Josh Herner is here with me. And Josh, you've been talking to me a lot about a couple of standout players on these two teams.
There's a lot to talk about in this game, especially with Portsmouth's very own Chase Hyland. In his first season as a running back, Hyland ran for over 1,700 yards and 18 touchdowns. In Portsmouth's round 1 playoff victory versus Fairfield, Hyland broke the Trojans' single-game rushing record, running for 359 yards and 4 touchdowns. At practice this week, Chase talked about his goal to reach 2,000 rushing yards this season.
2,000 is a hefty goal, but last year we came close, and coach said it's going to be a lot harder, and that's a hard goal because teams are going to game plan. I told coach I wanted to play running back, so he said I had to put on some weight, so I started eating. I put on 20 pounds my first year.
Hyland started the season strong against Valley. Let's see if he can repeat this week.
But of course, we know anything can happen in a crosstown matchup.
It may have been a crosstown rivalry, but the whole town showed out tonight for this matchup. After a Portsmouth West punt, the Trojan offense got things rolling, with JT Williams hitting Cameron Williams on the screen for a big gain. And remember that connection, because it would strike again. Haley, I'm getting deja vu. Williams to Williams again on the screen, 6-0 Portsmouth. It didn't take long for the Senators to respond, as Mason Parker finds a gap in the Trojan defense, and he had a trip reserved for the end zone. Portsmouth West takes the 1-point lead. 4th and 3 for Portsmouth, and JT Williams keeps it, but falls short of the first down. Senators take possession. Portsmouth threatening again, and it's Parker bringing the boom, leading to a Trojan punt. Trojans threatening again, and a dime might be worth 10 cents, but this one's worth 6 points as JT Williams hits Logan Atkins in the corner of the end zone. 14-7 Trojans. Portsmouth keeps their foot on the gas, finishing off the Senators with a final score of 41-7.
Yeah, so it sounds like Portsmouth really took over in that second half.
They outscored the Trojans outscored the Senators, 27-0 in the half. A dominant performance on both sides of the ball.
Absolutely, Josh. And physicality played a role in tonight's game. How did that affect both sides?
Yeah, Haley, both these teams tried to establish the run early and often. This caused for a major third down production. Both teams had to fight for every yard they got tonight. And Haley, this game kicked off at 7, so the heat played a major factor. A lot of player rotation and a lot of timeouts were called in this first half.
So we just talked about Hyland and the rest of the squad earlier. How did Hyland deliver tonight?
Yeah, he didn't play that big of a factor in the first half of this game. Coach Kolb talked about how Portsmouth West would stack the box against him tonight, and Portsmouth had to do their best to figure out how to get Hyland the ball. Although he really delivered in this second half. He went for 2 touchdowns and really helped put this game away.
Josh, P. West hasn't started 0-2 since 2021. What needs to change?
Yeah, Haley, their offense needs to pick it up. They've only scored 7 points in 2 games, and the running game needs to get going.
Absolutely, Josh.
Haley, Portsmouth adds a win to improve to 2-0, while West looks to turn things around next week against Hillsborough.
Thanks so much, Josh. This is a great start of the season for them. We'll see if they can keep the train rolling. And Sheridan and Watkins Memorial, on the other hand, are trying to get the ball rolling. Last week, they both took a loss, and unfortunately, only one will get to put a win on the resume this week. NBL lead reporter Stephen Caroli joins us now live. And Stephen, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, Haley. While last week looks like a large margin loss for Sheridan, that game was actually close until the fourth quarter when Licking Valley exploded for 16 points. But regardless of the details, that Week 1 loss is very important for playoff and Region 11 implications. Trust me, I know. How are we already talking postseason in Week 2? But just bear with me. In 2024, Region 11 added 4 new teams with at least 7 wins in 2023. And don't forget, Region 11 already had 7 teams with at least 7 wins last season. That's 11 teams right there, and only 16 in the region will make the playoffs. Now, what's even crazier than that? According to Drew Pastore's Fantastic 50, if Sheridan wins tonight, they have an 82% chance to make the playoffs. And an 0-2 start gives the Red Rage only a 28% chance to make the playoffs. Paul Culver Jr. Stadium is the stage for this intense Week 2 matchup. Speaking of intense, look at Watkins Memorial quarterback Drew Samsel on the first drive of the game. This young man is not afraid to lower the shoulder. After physical drives for both teams, the Generals get to the 8-yard line and the snap is low on the field goal attempt. Warriors take over on downs. But wait, the Warriors on the following play lose the ball themselves, and Sean Griffey recovers for the Generals. And no, come on, not again. Another fumble. The Warriors recover the ball inside their own 5-yard line. Watkins Memorial was then forced to punt out of their own end zone, and Logan Hupp catches the rock, analyzes the defense, and sees a phone ringing in the back of the end zone because this is a house call. 7-0 Sheridan, wow. On the following drive, this isn't deja vu. Sean Griffey just loves getting after the rock. Logan Russell scoops and runs all the way to the 2-yard line. The Generals would settle for a field goal though, 10-0 Red Rage. Let's go to the second half. Watkins Memorial begins to swing the momentum of this game as Jake Lash recovers a fumble for the Warriors. Drew Samsel on the following drive just heaves this one up and click, click. Welcome to your Kodak moment, John Apel. What a touchdown for him, and now we have a game. But unfortunately for Watkins Memorial, Logan Hupp puts the icing on the cake as he finds Hayden Henry for the wide open touchdown. That would be the final score of the game as the Generals bounce back and win 17-7 over the Warriors. I mean, Haley, that is such an important win for Sheridan.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper on that. What led to Sheridan bouncing back after that tough loss?
The way I look at this is that Rome, it wasn't built in one day, but at the same time, Rome can be built fast for Sheridan. This offense is very young. Primary quarterback Tice Whiteman is only a sophomore, so he has plenty of time to develop along with the rest of this offense. Keep in mind that Sheridan lost their starting quarterback, running back, and also their best wideout. This defense is also very good. Sean Griffey is an absolute dog at linebacker for the Generals, and this defense will be scary down the road.
How do you think the Generals will fare at the end of this season?
Haley, with so many talented teams in Region 11, it's going to be tough for Sheridan to earn a home playoff game. But Paul Culver III, my apologies, knows exactly what to do with this team. I believe all of Thornville trusts in him, and I do too when it comes to Sheridan appearing in the playoffs. Traveling to Thornville is always so special, and I can't wait to be back, Haley.
Thanks, Stephen. We're hoping you get back safe. Drive safely. It's no secret high school football brings communities together, but tonight's game in Reedsville was even more special. And joining us now is TVC Hawking lead reporter Maddie Kiefer. Maddie, what made tonight's game different than any other?
Haley, new school met old school at Eastern, and I'm not just talking about the retro jerseys. The Eagles started a new tradition tonight, welcoming back some of those who made Eastern football what it is today.
Hey, J.D. Whitlatch.
That's me, J.D.
Old meets new, as the Eastern Eagles welcome back players who once called this field home. J.D. Whitlatch played for the Eagles over 6 decades ago.
I can remember games that I played in 68 years ago in certain plays, and I can remember exactly like it was yesterday.
Whitlatch and teams from 1955 to 1960 and the undefeated 1971 and 81 teams were recognized at tonight's home opener. Former Eagles met and chatted with the current team and joined them as they took to the field.
What's your longest field goal?
Longest? I hit 45 in practice.
Okay, that don't count.
The school hopes this is the start of a new tradition in the community, honoring the legacy of Eastern athletics.
These are the guys that built the foundation for Eastern high school football and Eastern athletics. We're very grateful to have them in attendance.
The driving force behind this reunion, Eagles head coach Jason Jackson.
We said, hey, we've got to make that connection with the alumni, the football alumni, you know, the guys that built this place, the guys that started this place.
Whitlatch says this tradition should have started years ago.
How many great athletes come out of this community, and I'm glad Eastern, a small school like this, is getting the community together and having a good time, you know, and the old people can come around and see these players, you know. Yeah, I enjoy it. I think it's good for the community.
Honoring the past to build a better future.
Many current players walked with relatives who also wore the Eagle Green in their high school days. Coach Jackson says he hopes tonight honor walk reminded former players of their days on the gridiron. Haley?
Thanks, Maddie. That looks like it was a lot of fun, but you all back home may be thinking, hey, we didn't hear anything about the game. Don't worry, our digital host Donovan Varney is about to get to it.
Yeah, all right, guys, you know the deal. As much as we'd like to talk high school football all night, we've only got a short amount of time. So we sent reporters out to 4 more games to give you guys some more content. It's time for the extra point. And of course, who else would we start with but Eastern and Wirt County? It's a hot one out there, but Coach Jackson's got his boys fired up, and I'm fired up watching this one. Look at 12 go. That's my guy Brady Rockhold with the INT on Wirt County's opening drive, and he's got to run. He takes it all the way down to the 1 to set up the Eagle touchdown. The Eagles weren't done there. A little trickery here as Eastern running back Tyler Hill launches one deep to Gavin Murphy right in the breadbasket. Let the band play. That's 6 more for Eastern, and they would run away with this one, 47-16. Here we go over to Paint Valley against West Jefferson, and the Bearcats came out the tunnel looking fresh, but the Rough Riders would strike first. Austin Buscher finds Nick Fitzpatrick wide open in the end zone for 6. I mean, like, wide open. Paint Valley responds, and Braylon Robertson evens the score at 7-7 with a little 3-yard rush there. QB Preston Fauber said enough of the short runs and did this, 45 yards to the house. How about that for a QB? And how about that block downfield? I can't help but shout out good effort when I see it. Paint Valley handles business 28-14. Next up, we've got Valley at Coldgrove, and man, these tunnel runs do not get old. Neither do plays like these. Caden Murphy takes the handoff to the outside, and the rest is history. You're not touching this guy. 51 yards to the crib, Coldgrove up 6. Valley trying to get some momentum of their own. Anthony Aaron shakes some defenders on his way to the sideline and stumbles forward for the first down here. Same drive, 4th and 5. Valley with an attempt to the flat, and it's knocked away by Rylan Smith. I mean, this guy was floating. Hype me up, Rylan, because Coldgrove takes this one 30-16. All right, here's our last digital game, Sciotaville East versus Alexander. Yes, this took place last night, but y'all are going to get it anyway. The ground game wasn't working for Sciotaville here, as you could have seen, but it was for Alexander. Here's Isaac Walker breaking some tackles for 6 in the second quarter. Ain't nobody taking that ball from him. And after the half now, here's Alex Bateman. Looks like he's rolling out for a flood play here, but decides to keep it for himself. I don't know about y'all, but I love to see a QB use his feet, and this guy makes it look easy. 14-0 Spartans. Here's Walker again, making some plays for the Spartans with the punt block, sending Sciotaville East home packing, 21-0. While we had some good ones, that's all we've got for the extra point today. But if you haven't had enough of me, you can catch the pregame huddle during the week on all of our digital platforms. Now, enough about that. Haley, I think we've got some more football to talk tonight.
We absolutely do. Thanks, Donovan. And Morgan and Warren are the next team up. And for that, we welcome TSL lead reporter Ashley Fry.
Yeah, Haley, if you're starting to get deja vu from all these Week 2 rematches, well, I've got another one for you. Morgan and Warren, these two have seen each other Week 2 for the past 3 years in a row, and it has gotten closer and closer every year. In 2021, Warren fell to Morgan 28-14. 2022, 28-24, Morgan again, and last year Warren lost 33-22. So this has been a tight game every year, but consistently one where Morgan has come out on top. Now there has been some pretty intense change from the Morgan offense as they graduated star quarterback Logan Neiswanger last season. Neiswanger was a force to be reckoned with, not only on offense but on defense as well. He's been a huge contributor to Morgan's wins against Warren in the past. So what does that mean for this week's game? Well, let's find out. Fast forward to 2024, and this time we're in Vincent, Ohio. Warren with a field goal on their opening drive to put them in the lead, but not for long, as Morgan quickly responded with a touchdown by Tanner Banks. And I can't lie, this was a slow first quarter, but it would set us up for a speedy second right off the bat into 2. Warren quarterback Jacob Seeley with a 24-yard pass to Tanner Pepper, setting Warren up for a short touchdown, 10-7 Warriors. The very next play on the following kickoff return, Hayden Banks catches the ball and, like Forrest Gump, did not stop running. Run, Hayden, run, 89 yards all the way to the end zone. And we might see this clip a little later tonight as Morgan takes a 14-10 lead. One of the biggest names of the night, Hayden Banky, spelled like Banks, fitting because this kid is money. He would have an interception just 2 plays later to keep Morgan's hopes alive. It's Warren ball again as Seeley launches a 34-yard pass to Tanner Peppers, setting Eric Carr up for a touchdown, 17-14 Warren going into the half, and they would keep this momentum, pulling off their first win against Morgan in 4 years, 24-22 Warren Warriors.
Wow, you just said first win in 4 years? That is definitely something to talk about.
100%, so let's get right into it. Without a doubt, Warren won this on the ground. Their run game was top tier throughout the entire matchup, and I've got to give it to Eric Carr here, who ran for 150 yards total, giving Warren 2 of their 3 touchdowns on the night. I mean, this kid was explosive all night long and was a huge contributor to Warren's wins.
So a big night for Warren's offense. What about their defense?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, despite the loss and with the help of Hayden Bankies, Morgan still shined on offense, and honestly, this was because because Warren's defense had a little bit of a hard time responding to Morgan. Warren had ample opportunity to stop Morgan at and behind the line, but they just couldn't get there.
So what can they do going forward to close the deal?
I can't go on without giving Warren's defense credit for how many times they forced third and fourth downs. I mean, almost every possession we saw this happen. They just found it difficult to close, and I definitely think this is something they'll want to pay attention to going forward. Warren will look to continue this momentum next week at Logan, while Morgan faces a tough cross-conference matchup at New Lexington.
Thanks so much, Ashley. And like I said last week, there is no such thing as too much football. That's why you can find content like photos, game recaps, and highlights on our Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube throughout the week. And don't forget about the pregame huddle, our digital show where you can find game previews before Friday night rolls around. If it's SEO high school football you're looking for, we've got it. And here in the SEO, you can expect the unexpected. Last week, Meigs and Fairfield Union stunned fans across Southeast Ohio as the Marauders upset Gallia Academy and New Lexington fell to Fairfield Union. Joining us to make sense of this madness is MSL lead reporter Charlie Ehlenfeld.
Haley, I will try my best. Both squads came to Lancaster with something to prove. With hopes to establish themselves as Division 4 and 5 contenders, this felt like a playoff game, but in the blistering heat. And despite it only being week 2, both squads had a chance to set the record straight on their goals for this season. In suffocating heat, the Fairfield Union Falcons met the surging Meigs Marauders. Back once again to defend home turf, the Falcons were hungry to prove themselves to Southeast Ohio. Gunnar Cleveland was pressured early and often tonight, and here Zach Berry buries him. And Meigs' drive 6 feet under. He is fired up. On the next play, a swarm of Falcons blocked the punt, and it was Grant McPherson who fell on it. Fairfield Union leads 6-0. Fairfield Union gets the pitch, and oh my goodness, he's faking out the camera and defenders as he barrels through the Meigs defense and towards the end zone for 6. Falcons lead 13-0 early, and he was not finished battling the Meigs defense yet. Bouncing it to the outside, it looks like Meigs might have him bottled up, but he finds the edge and gets his second touchdown of the night. Get him some oxygen because he's about to kick the extra point. The Marauders refused to be shut out in the first half, and Gunnar Cleveland threaded the needle to find Dustin Vance to put Meigs on the board. But the second half, it was all Falcons as they soared to a crushing 48-6 victory, getting back to 500.
Wow, Charlie, I don't think anybody saw that coming from these two.
Yeah, I think I was more surprised than anyone by the result. But when you feed number 15 on Fairfield Union, good things happen. Coach Andy Clark told me before the season that the Falcons live by the creed of fast, physical, and together. Owen Ruff embodies that creed. Fairfield Union was not afraid to go back to the ground despite last week's struggles. Ruff had no hesitation all night, putting his shoulder down and running north to south on everybody. His toughness and physicality brought element to the Falcons' ground game that they were sorely missing last week, and he contributed everywhere. Here he is on defense, leading a unit that strangled the Marauder ground game all night long. If that was not enough, he kicks Fairfield Union's extra points because that's what goats do. Look up Swiss Army knife in the dictionary and you will find Ruff. Now we get to see the other end of Meigs' Week 1 upset and one of their conference rivals.
Charlie, you have got that right. The events of the last week have made this a highly anticipated matchup and our game of the week. That's right, it's finally time for Athens and Gallia Academy. And here to break down the 101st meeting of the two is OVC lead reporter Lucy Schaefer.
Haley, Gallia is leading this series 50-47 and outscored Athens by 87 points combined from their last 3 meetings. And this season has already been eventful for both teams. So Athens beat Philo 28-14 on the road last week, scoring 21 points to come back from a 14-7 deficit at half. They totaled 411 yards of offense, and we haven't seen them win that game in 4 years.
Right, and Gallia Academy lost at Meigs 19-26. This was the first time they've lost to a TVC Ohio opponent since 2017. What's going on?
Well, I'll tell you, Haley, there's a lot going on about this team, but there's one other thing different about this year's Blue Devils. They welcomed a new head coach in Nathan Metler, and they also graduated around 14 seniors last season.
Yeah, that's a lot of seniors, but as for the Bulldogs, they're bringing back key players in Braden Young, Alex Pirro, and Leo Martin. So, Lucy, let's get into it.
Well, Gallia tonight had quite the message for the Bulldogs coming into their home opener, and I have to say, I forgot how explosive the environment at Memorial Field really was. So let's see if the Blue Devils can match the energy of their fans. Gallia began the game with possession, but turned the ball over on downs after a drive full of long pass attempts just like these, and Athens would take advantage of that. Here's senior quarterback Braden Young handing off to Alex Pirro, and he speeds by several Blue Devil defenders for the Bulldogs' first score. And you might want to remember that name for later. Now, the Bulldogs back on offense so fast that even the camera missed the beginning of this 10-yard touchdown run from Pirro. 14-0 Athens early in the second quarter. Another turnover on downs for the Blue Devils, and Young hands off to Pirro, tricking me and the Gallia defense. Oh, there he is. Too fast to catch, bringing that ball in for another touchdown. That 21-0 would increase to 28-0 after another Pirro run with 4 minutes left in the half. Now, Gallia has the ball back now, and a pass interference sets them up in good field position. Braylon Rathburn to Gabe Hammonds for a 32-yard reception to finally put those Blue Devils on the board. But those Dogs were too fast for Gallia, as they would score one more time before the half and breeze through the rest, winning 55-6.
Lucy, this was a crazy game. What gave Athens the edge tonight?
Yeah, absolutely, Haley. This Bulldog team is stacked with upperclassmen, and that's something that they definitely hold over Gallia's head. Now, as we talked about before, Gallia graduated all those seniors that were staples in last year's program. This team, well, it's a lot younger this season. Athens used all those Blue Devil mistakes we saw to their benefit.
How did the Bulldogs do that?
So they turned every slow Gallia drive into those touchdowns, scoring on every possession in the first half. Veterans Alex Pirro and Braden Young led this team tremendously tonight. I cannot stress enough that the experience level on this Athens team really put them over the top. Just look at this hit.
Wow. You've been mentioning experience a lot, so tell me more about how that affected Gallia.
Yeah, so last year we saw quarterback Braylon Rathburn passing to guys like Kenyon Franklin, Hunter Shamblin, and Hudson Shamblin. All those guys, well, they graduated, so we saw several new faces on that field tonight. Rathburn was taking risks with those young receivers. It's possible that when they get some more reps and Coach Metler becomes more comfortable in Gallipolis, Gallia could turn that 0-2 start around.
So what do you see for Athens going forward?
So something I noticed tonight was Athens' speed. They knew where they were at on the field at all times, and they knew what they wanted to run. Remember when I almost missed that touchdown earlier? If Young, Pirro, and Athens can continue blinding opponents with that, I see a lot of success for them in the future. Now, both these teams have big weeks coming up. Gallia has their rivalry game with Point Pleasant, while Athens will face off against Marietta.
Thanks, Lucy. And we're going to keep an eye on these two for sure. Now, we've seen a lot of great football tonight, which is why it's a little difficult to pick our top 5 plays. But I'm not complaining. Keep it coming, and maybe you'll see yourself or your team on here. Starting with number 5, let's get into it. Portsmouth West Senator Cade Woods with a hard hit. My goodness, please make sure that guy is okay. And on to our 4th top play of the night. Colgrove linebacker Joey Scarberry, pick 6. I mean, this is insane. Look at him go. For our 3rd play of the night, we have Morgan's Hayden Banks with an 89-yard kickoff for a touchdown. There were many more yards that this kid could have had on this play, and nobody could stop him. He was just leaving everybody in the dust. Can somebody please catch up? That is something worth celebrating. And our 2nd best play of the night is so good, it's hard to believe it's not number 1. Preston Fauber, Paint Valley Bearcats QB to Carson Free, and oh my gosh, he just got mossed. And for our number 1 play tonight, I mean, following that play up might seem impossible, but it's Sean Terry. Come on. He was here just last week, but his evasive maneuvers have put him right back at the top. He just gets through this defensive line like it's absolutely nothing. I don't think there's any stopping this guy, and I have a feeling we're going to see him in our top 5 more often. You guys, I've been trying to avoid making weather jokes all show, but it is truly starting to heat up, physically and figuratively. If you thought SEO brought the heat this week, you will not believe the index for next Friday. I'm not going to spoil it all right now, but you can catch a glimpse of next week's games on our social media in the coming days, because there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
Additional support from Donato's Pizza, featuring pizza, subs, salads, and catering from their Athens location at 688 East State Street. Information at donatospizza.com or 740-592-5049. Support comes from Dean Heating.